Lynn here with the Non-Traditional Pharmacist. Today we have Jenn Dees joining us, who is a pharmacist now working as a financial advisor. We're going to be highlighting how Jenn transitioned from the field of pharmacy to where she is now and talk about everything related to her current job and her journey of how she got there. So Jenn, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my journey with everyone.
Absolutely. So let's get started. And how did you first become a financial advisor? Can you kind of walk us through your path through pharmacy to how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, and obviously the one I get the most, people are like, how in the world did you go from being a pharmacist to a financial advisor? So a little bit of a backstory. My husband was a college basketball coach, and we moved out to Idaho right after I graduated pharmacy school. And he came home one day out of the blue and said he was quitting coaching and he was going to become a financial advisor with Edward Jones. So my husband's also a financial advisor with Edward Jones. And then I have two brother-in-laws that are also with the company. One of them's been with the company for over 20 years. So it's been in the family. I've got to experience it firsthand by seeing it through my husband, but basically what made me decide to make the transition was retail obviously has been hard to be in the last couple of years and has changed drastically since even I got into it 10 years ago. One of the big things that I really liked about pharmacy was the relationship piece of it, being able to connect with people. And I saw that my husband was doing that same exact thing with Edward Jones. And he got to do it on his own time. He got to sit down and have really good, in-depth, genuine conversations with his clients. So it just seemed like a natural transition to me. And it also, I get to keep my foot in the door with pharmacists because pharmacists, change jobs frequently. They have old retirement plans. They need advice on investments as well. So it's been the best of two worlds for me. I, get to still be in pharmacy without the stress of retail, but really get to play on the part of me building on relationships and getting to talk to people without the stress of metrics or a dashboard.
That's really cool. So you had some background into it from your family and your husband, and then you ultimately made the switch since you took what you liked from retail and then applied it to a new career. Obviously outside of pharmacy, but that's really interesting. So how was the transition out of pharmacy? I'm sure it was, your friends and your family had some background in it, but how was it, the reaction from your friends, your family, your colleagues, going from pharmacy and studying pharmacy for so long to a whole new field?
Yeah, it was hard. It took me a long time, over a year I was debating it. Because you go to pharmacy school, you study so hard, tests, and to get this doctorate degree behind your name, there's such a nostalgia that comes with being a pharmacist. And when people ask what you do and you say you're a pharmacist, people are, oh, that's amazing, like, you're so smart, it took you so long to get, like, they're just in awe of what you do. And then when you tell somebody you're a financial advisor, I feel like 9 times out of 10 people are running for the hills because they feel like that you're trying to sell them something. So it was hard to, one, obviously think about the 6 years that I busted my butt to get my degree, and to think that I was just going to be walking away from that in a sense, that was tough. And then also the reaction from my family, for the most part, they had seen what I was going through with retail and my quality of life. I have 2 small kids at home and I was working 80 plus hours a week.
Wow.
So they were all super, super supportive. Shocked in the beginning, obviously. I feel like that would come with most people, but super supportive. But I will say it was a hard transition, but I wouldn't change it for the world, and it's been a great transition for me.
Definitely. And, that's great that you were able to recognize that that was something that you wanted to go into and made the leap, because I can see how that could be scary at first, but ultimately it led you to a career that you love, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of your job, what is the day-to-day life like? Is it a 9-to-5 job, or can you walk us through a typical day of being a financial advisor?
Yeah, so it's obviously going to differ between when you first start till you're a couple years out, even, 10, 20 plus years out. But the nice thing about my job is I'm my own boss. So I create my own schedule, which can be an amazing thing, but it can also be, a pain point, because if you're not super motivated and don't stick to a schedule, you can find yourself getting behind. But in the beginning, the first couple of years, you have to build up your business and your client base and get out and let people know what you're doing. So in the beginning, more of a 9 to 5, it's even more than that, just trying to get out and get the word out and help people. But after you transition and build your business, you get your assistant who's going to help you with a lot of those activities, and it can turn more into, like, further down the road, if you want it to be a 9 to 3, a 9 to 2, if you want to work 3 days a week, it's truly what you make of it, because you make your own schedule and you're your own boss. So if I had to give any advice to somebody who was considering this profession, it's a great profession, because obviously you're your own boss, you have your own office, you get to create your own schedule. But I would say that it is hard work in the beginning, and be prepared to at least put in 8 hours a day building your business.
Yeah, wow, that's great advice, and definitely a perk that I think a lot of pharmacists and pharmacy students looking to go into the field of pharmacy are looking into. I know retail, you worked retail. The problem with retail with hours is that you do work a lot of nights and weekends. So I think your own schedule sounds it could be very appealing, and definitely a positive of becoming a financial advisor.
Yeah, that was a big plus for me. And like I said, I have 2 small kids. If somebody needs to go to the doctor or somebody's sick, I can go.
Absolutely.
Which was huge.
Yeah, definitely. Now, in terms of geographic location, are you limited to where you're able to work? Do you do a lot of remote work, or is it mainly an office job?
It's a little bit of both. COVID's definitely changed the landscape with that. So I have an office, but you can remote office as much as you would like. My company has invested a lot of money in technology and being able to let you work remotely. So it can be what you want to make of it. I meet with clients in my office just because I feel like that's better to have a more professional setting. Sometimes I'll meet with them at Starbucks or their homes or virtually, whatever they're comfortable with. But it's a blend of both. So remote working, and then obviously being in the office.
Yeah, working from Starbucks, that could be good. You have the coffee on hand, right?
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
So now that you walked us through a little bit of what it's like to work in the field, are you able to touch on some things like in terms of the life around the job? How do you think it is? I know you mentioned a little bit about how with having 2 kids at home, it's nice to be able to make their appointments and make a schedule around it. But how is it with your personal life? Do you think it's a job that fits with your at-home life and what you do with your kids and your family?
110%. That was another one of my pain points was, my bosses where I worked before did a great job of talking to us about work-life balance, because I was in a supervisor role, so I had more flexibility than being in a store. And they talked a lot to us about work-life balance and shutting work off, but it's impossible in pharmacy. When you're looking over 25 stores, there's going to be a fire no matter what. So my work-life balance was non-existent. Here, I can shut it off. I can leave it, at the office. I can shut my computer off. So I follow what's called an 8-8-8 schedule. So 8 hours I'm going to be in the office, 8 hours I'm going to be sleeping, 8 hours I'm going to be with my family, and I stick with that. So my quality of life has significantly improved.
I like that a lot. 8-8-8. I think that's definitely something a lot of people could benefit from. So I know you worked, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you did work in retail for a number of years, right? You worked
10 years.
for 10 years. Okay, that's a number of years.
Yeah.
And then you were a pharmacist and then a pharmacy manager, and then you were also a district manager?
Yep.
For a chain pharmacy. So in terms of experience, you had a lot of retail experience or community pharmacy experience. There's a lot of people and that one of their biggest concerns is, I don't have enough experience. What would you say to those that would consider this job, but then they say, wait a second, I'm a pharmacist and I don't have the experience to make this transition, especially into something outside of pharmacy. So what would you say your advice is on experience needed to make a career change into something that you've never done before?
I mean, I did it. I would say don't shut yourself down or count yourself out of something. I would just go for it. They're going to tell you yes or no. With the position that I came into, there was no experience required. I tell people all the time, when I first started becoming a financial advisor, you have to get licensed, very similar to what you do with becoming a pharmacist. And I remember day one opening up my book to study for my exams, and it genuinely looked like Japanese to me. I had no idea what it was. I was like, oh my gosh, I have no experience in this, how I'm going to do this. And here I am. So I would say, if it's something that you're truly interested in, but you feel like you don't have the experience, go for it anyway. What they're going to tell you is no, and they're going to let you know, hey, we require XYZ experience, versus you counting yourself out and always wondering what could have happened. There's the pharmacists that make career changes and been successful. So I would say just go for it, look into it, and give it a shot.
I love that. Just go for it, especially with, you just kind of, you got to learn and take what you've learned in the past and apply it. And it could be something completely new, but just go for it.
And what I would say too is, like a financial advisor, a lot of people worry about that they don't know enough about the market or investments or whatever it is. But my job is getting to know people and having genuine conversations with them, and then obviously putting together a good plan for them. But I have a team that'll help me do that. And I feel like pharmacists are social people. They have good personalities. They can interact. So you can on whatever you decide to do.
Regarding colleagues that you work with, you said that you have a team. Is it other financial advisors that you work with in order to find the best plan for somebody?
So it's just me, and then I have an office assistant. So my office assistant assists me with answering phone calls, taking messages, kind of the daily, ins and outs, so that I can sit down and meet with people and have conversations and put together an investment plan for them.
Excellent. Okay. Now, advice that you'd give to a pharmacy student versus a pharmacist might be a little bit different. Would you recommend one path versus another for a student versus a pharmacist?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My conversations are tailored different depending on obviously where you are. In pharmacy, if you're a student or you're a pharmacist that's been out for 5 or 10 years, the conversations that I've been having with pharmacy students are just give it a shot. You never know. Retail could be amazing to you, but for me, hospital didn't really fit me well. The avenues of pharmacy fit into what I wanted to do, but I'm very, very thankful that I got the 10 years of experience that I did. So my advice to new grads would be, you're on the path, you've worked really hard, give it a shot, and you never know just pharmacy that you might fall into and you might love. There are thousands of pharmacists that love their jobs. So I wouldn't count it out until you get a little bit of experience under your belt.
Okay. So if you're a pharmacy student, you think that you worked in pharmacy for 10 years and it definitely, even though it's not the role that you ended up in, you took a lot and you learned a lot from it and you can still apply that to today. So that's what you're saying with the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's helped me a ton in this job, just being able to have conversations with or interact with people. But yeah, it's taught me a lot. And like I said, it's something that I wouldn't go back and do. I my 10 years. Obviously, it didn't work out for me, and it wasn't the path I wanted to do, but I wouldn't trade the experience and the relationships that I even built with other pharmacists and technicians.
Excellent. Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything today. If somebody is interested and wants to learn more, is there a way that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, just under Jenn Dees. In my heading, there's just PharmD and Financial Advisor. But if you guys have any questions or want some advice or just somebody to talk to, absolutely. I'm more than willing to help you guys and answer any questions that you might have.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Jenn, for taking the time to share your story here with everybody. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.